So the session will be recorded, and then to receive credit for this evening, you do need to fill out the sketch form at the end. And we just always encourage you to use the chat liberally, put your thoughts, your questions, posed to us, to each other, that whatever is kind of at the forefront of your mind, because we're not always in that position to unmute and share. I will put the slide deck link in the chat here so you can grab that if you want it to be. And just as a reminder too, we do have that opportunity at the end after the webinar, if you would like to kind of double down on your sketch credit to get some additional credits to put your learning into action. So I'm going to hand it over to, oh no, I'm doing the engagement connector. I was going to say, I'm going to hand it over to Bridget.
Yeah, no, it's your turn. You get to get us rolling, Sarah.
Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide,
Yeah,
please.
I'm actually trying, and for some reason, my computer does not want to do it, but there we go.
Okay. Thank you. So I am going to launch a poll here, and you can just reply by clicking the little checkbox. And so we're curious, when you were in school, kind of K-12 area, what kind of job did you think that you wanted? And I know, especially like when we're lower elementary, we have these dreams of these things that we would like to be. So we're just kind of curious where you ended up and your thoughts. All right, so it looks like we're landing in the food, animals, and environment dream job, and not sure, constantly changing.
Got some questions. Okay, so I am interested to know whatever it was that was your vision of your future. What sparked your interest in those careers? So when you were a kid, what gave you the ideas about what maybe you could be, what you wanted to be, what was possible for you to be? Let's do a little waterfall, and I'm going to invite you to take part in this as well. Let's put some of our stuff in here too. So in the chat, please type, but don't hit send. We'll waterfall this all together at the end. Take a moment. What was it that got you interested in what you might want to be when you were a kid? Was it something like a project you did? Was it a teacher or an adult in your life? Was it media that you saw, a movie, a book that you read? Go ahead and type in there what got you thinking about what you wanted to be.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles do. Those were your teachers. Love it.
Hey, yeah, there's a reason behind it.
What was the rat's name?
Master Splinter.
Oh, Master Splinter. That's
Uh, right. So I'm seeing a mix of some adults in our lives, whether it was teachers or parents, and of course teachers as mutant ninja turtles or vice versa in Dew's case. Some media representation there, of course. Sarah, I'm with you. Part of it was personal experience. So that idea of I had been with kids, I really enjoyed being with kids. I also read about or watched TV shows where there was teachers, and I thought that that was a pretty cool thing. And Austin, it looks like you had that sort of you had a reason for what you wanted to do, which motivated you towards the sorts of things that might help you do that. Am I kind of getting that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I just wanted to help the people around me.
Yeah. So really a personal experience and a deep motivation on that. Well, it's interesting when you think about where kids get their ideas, and especially when we're talking about young children that aren't necessarily in career offerings yet in school, where do they get ideas? And for those that have a very narrow set of ideas in front of them, how might we expand their vision of what could be? Ugh, telling you, my computer only likes my mouse today, and that is okay. It can just like my mouse. So let's talk a little bit. We don't have to have breakout. We've got this beautiful, intimate, small group. Let's talk just a little bit about what job you wanted, where the interest came from. We actually just talked about that. I'd like to hear a little bit about how your interests may have shifted and what some of the factors might have been, or if it stayed the course, what was it that kept you pointing in that same direction? You can chat. You can in the chat. We can talk in person. I personally changed a bunch of times. I did want to be a teacher when I was very small, but then about every 2 to 3 years, something came along that made me go, oh, that might be cool to be. That might be cool to be. I think there was lawyer at one point. I think I just like to argue. I think there was, I know there was marine biologist, there was archaeologist, paleontologist, all of those things. And then eventually I gravitated back and said, I actually really want to be a teacher. How about you guys?
I'll kind of start our conversation here. I know I pretty much always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I at one point was like, maybe I want to do web design or graphic design. And then I did it, and I was like, there is no way I could do that full time. That burns you out pretty quick. So I was like, yes, elementary ed, that's where I'm at. Love the little kiddos. Did some observing and helping in classrooms, and I said, absolutely not with the elementary. Middle school is my jam. And I just found that was perfect was for me. And it was just based on those experiences, and glad to have had those experiences to help find out where like my passions really lied.
I was actually the one that said it was ever changing. And at one point, I wanted to be a dentist because I absolutely hated my dentist. And I thought that I would be nice.
I love that it's like that reverse motivation, right, Sally? I'll show you. I had an English teacher like that in high school. Like, well, it's interesting to see where our influences come from. And really, to be totally truthful, my father tried to talk me out of being a teacher through my high school years. So much so that when I went to college, I went off to college to go pursue a different degree and a different occupation. And about a semester and a half in, I went, I want to be a teacher. So in some ways, it was really good for me to have some experience. And most of what I was looking at was able to kind of segue over into teaching because, of course, freshman year, you're pretty much gen ed all the way around. But I think that it was good for me to have some of that pushback and to be able to really examine my own motivations and my own feelings. But I can't say that there was a lot of career connected learning in my K-12 education. So we know that we ground everything in this series in the engagement accelerators. There's our massive graphic with our 5 accelerators. We're thinking about student-centered learning, instructional moves, asset-driven teaching, climate, environment, and relationships. And what we're going to talk about tonight certainly falls into more than one of these, but probably the largest one that rises to the top is that student-centered learning. So when we're thinking about student-centered learning, again, think I'm on the graphic here. It's all good.
Your computer's loving you tonight here.
I know, I'm telling you, I suspect that my mouse batteries are low and it's feeling a little touchy. I think that's possible. Just pulling out that one single accelerator, if we think about student-centered learning, where do you see the connections with career-connected learning and student-centered? This could be in your own experience. It could be just as you're thinking about it or from what you've seen other students. Feel free to type that in the chat, or if you'd like to just talk it, you can. Man, Ju, it looks like we are all ears. I am so excited to hear you talk about how student-centered learning is really, really uplifted with career connected.
Oh, it's super uplifted with career connectedness. So I'm
I
excited to
know,
talk
and you're
about
going to
it.
talk all
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, you want to introduce our esteemed guest?
Yes, I would love to. So tonight we have Du Bowie joining us. He is the STEM consultant at Kent ISD here, and I think his role is pretty unique in the fact that when you say STEM, you immediately go to science, technology, engineering, and math, but he does a lot more of that and really leaning into that career connectedness and really giving purpose to STEM in the classroom and STEM programs. And by the picture he provided, he is also very accomplished in playing pickleball and skiing at the same time. So props to do on that. So welcome for joining us this night, dude.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here in the engaged in career connected learning episode. I am a guest speaker. I'm your guest speaker for today, and I do like pickleball, but I also love skiing. My kids are in skiing right now, and that's actually, if you didn't notice, an AI rendered image. I actually haven't done that yet at all. Has anyone done either of these two activities simultaneously or separate?
I play pickleball, but I've never gone skiing. But
Okay. All
pickleball
right.
is pretty good.
It's pretty fun. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to play after this. This is going to cost me so much. It's my mental wellness. I'm just kidding. I'm glad to be here. It's going to be super fun. But how about you, Sally? How about you, McKenna? Are you either of you have done these activities before?
Uh, I'm not a skier at all. I'm sure I would break a leg. Pickleball, I'm interested in, and I actually have a racket and hope to put that on the list to learn how to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And McKenna, if you want to type in the chat, that's cool too. And I think this is if you were to ask me 10 years ago that I played tennis 1 year in high school. I really liked it. I switched from football to tennis. And if you're to tell me that, the sport that is way slower than tennis, you're hitting a wiffle ball over a net 10 years ago that would outgrow tennis, I would not have believed you until I tried it myself and found out I really like it better than tennis now. And for skiing, a kid from mid-urban Wyoming wouldn't have thought or dreamed that he would like skiing either. So trying it and knowing myself a little bit better through experiencing it really helped me channel some things that I was super interested in that I never really thought I would be interested in. My journey as an educator is one that when I'm not lying, involves the Ninja Turtles and it involves a lot of my teachers. My parents were immigrant parents, and they really worked all day and sometimes into the evenings. So my older brother was the one who would, take care of us, much like I think Austin and some others had said, and Sarah. You just like to take care of people, sometimes by choice, sometimes it's just required. But I really grew up with some of the media I watched and many of my teachers just really building these values up in me because my parents they were doing the best they could at the time, but they couldn't give me like the required experiences for good social, emotional, and even some lived-in experiences that would inform some of my career choices, like you have said and there in the chat. And so your parents have informed your choices. So really, my teachers who did the great work of helping me build up morals and helping me have these mentor type figures really gave me a big admiration for them. I'm like, I really want to do that for someone else. And on the flip side, I also learned how to speak English from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I knew from the Turtles and a lot of other superheroes that it is awesome to do good and to make the world a better place. And I saw my teachers in that space, and that's kind of what I knew. And Bridget kind of alluded it to it as well. I don't remember much like meaningful career connectedness or even the opportunity to engage in some experiences that I would use to decide if I like something, right? I talked about not thinking I would actually like pickleball or skiing until I actually tried it and had an immersive experience with it. And I think that's where we're headed to in STEM or STEAM education. You heard Sarah talk about the differences between what we want to do in STEM. Sometimes STEAM, if we include the arts, which we absolutely want to do and do as well. But yeah, you already have your science, technology, engineering, math classes usually, and those are electives in the secondary. But in the K to 5, STEM classes are usually specials and a lot of career readiness and sometimes career technical education, sometimes called CTE. Some people call it CTE like experiences, live in there as well. And that's just opportunities for career connected learning to live a little bit more. Austin, I saw you unmute your mic and I was in the middle of my
Hey,
spiel. So
no,
what's up?
I like that you caught that. That's real. That's real cool.
Yeah.
No, it's just a side question. Which turtle was your favorite out of all of them?
Okay, so that's a real deep question.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
might inform. I was always a Donatello guy because he was
Mm,
sensible and knew the plan, created the plan beforehand. I admire all the other aspects of the other turtles, but Donnie, he was the
yeah,
guy. I thought the bow staff was really cool,
it
and
was.
he was the one that made the plans and never really got caught too often, and he just knew what's up. So Donatello is my guy. Yeah.
Mm, nice.
But yeah, thanks for asking that. Feel free to put your favorite turtle in chat. I'm sure a lot of you are gonna be Team Blue, Leonardo, but that's okay. Donatello is where it's at. But yeah, and why career connected learning, especially if you're from West Michigan, right? There are amazing STEAM or STEM careers just in our area. You look at the big industries around Michigan, and even some here that you see in these images, they're represented in our local area very well. And Michigan in general, if you go through West Michigan Central and the Eastern, there's lots of industries and partners that you can tie or make your experiences tailored to in the world of STEA and M. And it's important because we asked what you wanted to be when you grew up. Were many of your answers, I couldn't remember exactly, were many of them STEAM or STEM related at all?
Sarah, do you have access to that poll info? I don't actually remember that.
And yeah, so food, animals, environment, right? Dream job, constantly changing. I think a lot of us were coded to almost fall into a similar path of career. Like Bridget, I know you always wanted to be an educator. You had the fortunate experience to try a couple other things to affirm what you already knew, that you were just an educator from heart and start. But for a lot of people, I think they don't know what they're missing sometimes. Like, I didn't know pickleball is awesome and skiing is amazing. And for student interests and need to drive learning experiences, right? We were looking at those indicators, and really it informs that should be one of the, and that's I think why it's up at the top, because student interests, their agency really should drive their learning. And if you didn't know, these are what everyone else says. We didn't have too many people join tonight for a variety of answers, but this is what Voco Vision says that the top five childhood aspirations are, right? You can see that generally it's scientist, musician, athlete, teacher, and doctor. For boys, number one's athlete. Number two's doctor. YouTuber is a high number three. Scientist and musician are below that. And for girls, doctor, teacher, musician, athlete, and lawyer are their preferred choices for careers. Does any of this surprise any of you looking at this? Why not?
Feel like a lot of these make sense. These are a lot of typical routes that a lot of people take. The one thing I guess if I had to say stood out to me would be YouTuber. That's something that's definitely rolled out more over the years, especially with technology developments and things like that. Streamer is going to become like a bigger one as time goes on. But these are many things that childhood friends all thought were really good things. So it
Mhm,
doesn't stand
mhm.
out too much to me.
Just to piggyback off what Austin was commenting on, I think that one of the things that surprises me as the elder statesman here, when I think about if you would have asked my peers when I was, let's say, even before sixth grade, the only thing on this list that people might not have said is YouTuber because it didn't exist yet. And it somewhat surprises me that a more contemporary survey might not come up with jobs that we didn't know about when I was a kid. And it does make you go, well, do kids know about it? There are all these really lucrative positions out there that adults are walking into. Just even forgetting there are jobs that don't yet exist. There are jobs that do exist that I'm kind of surprised more of that innovation didn't show up in some of the survey data.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say the exact same thing. If I think about what someone asked me when I was little, besides saying a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, it probably would have been athlete or doctor or scientist or musician, right? And maybe even a lawyer might have made it in. Probably not, but these are very much very similar to what I would think kids would have answered 10, 20 years ago. And I think that's problematic in a lot of ways because, uh, you know, kids know from more research, they know that they want to have a job that they enjoy. But those can't be the only jobs they might enjoy, right? So let me go back here. Sorry. This is I usually use the canvas now, so it's a little different with clicks. And they value having close friends, obviously, but they also have value a lot of money. And there are some things below that too. But number one is they want a job or a career that they really enjoy. And those careers here being the only ones really does a disservice to what's available even in Michigan as career clusters, right? So we also know that Gen Zers are gonna make 8 out of the 10 um, 8 out of 10 Gen Zers agree that they think they have a great future ahead of them, but they're not so sure about how prepared they are and what school, but not helping our kids be prepared for after school is over. So there's that little there's an optimistic view there, but they're not quite ready for it, and also problematic in my sense. And why don't you think students feel more prepared when they leave high school? There's got to be a reason for this, right?
Um, if I had to say why, it'd be because high school they teach you a lot of basic skills that you're going to need going into any field. It's kind of like you're learning all the basics, but they're not going to teach you a lot of the specified things. Like they don't teach you about dentistry. They're not going to teach you how to fix your car. They're not going to teach you, how to apply like first aid. Like those are very specific courses, and you kind of have to just discover them on your own. I went to school for business because it was a very general degree and it knew could make some money. But now I'm a special education teacher, but I didn't find that out until I explored a lot of various paths all on my own.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And some things in the chat too, um, you know, go along with the idea, Austin, if you said on your own, right? McKenna said like there's a level of comfort with being with all your friends and leaving that social situation, going into the real world is out of that comfort zone and can seem a little scary. That's really good right there. Yeah, okay, those things are definitely um I think for a lot of people, if you ask this question, they would say very similar things. Anyone else?
The one thing I was going to mention, I have a daughter who's in high school, and it seems as though we're kind of returning back to the college is the pathway after school, and college is not the pathway for every student. And so she's actually writing a persuasive essay for school on that is not the only option. So I'm proud of her for doing that and just exploring what else is out there in the world.
Yeah, it seems like it ebbs and flows with that mentality every 5 to 10 years as the market shifts and whatnot. But I think that's heavily considered too. When we think about that, you're talking about your daughter being driven to really prove that there are a lot of other options and developing kind of the critical thinking and kind of just the agency to choose her own path and not the general mentality, right? You described her student voice and motivation to really drive that point through. And I think, again, when we talk about career corrected learning, when you see kind of how I describe it, I think it's going to match with all these bullet points and really provide some relevancy that students need to drive the learning experience in a way that is really authentic. And glad you said that, Sarah. And when I think of what career readiness was for me, and I went to school, I was gonna date myself. I went to high school from '04 and graduated in '08. So, and the messaging was a lot like this. This is an AI generated poster, but it wouldn't be that far off from what I think I would have saw at my high school. And this is obviously a plumber. My neighbor's a plumber. He's amazing. He works hard, gets paid a lot of money, but that image doesn't reflect his lifestyle. And he's got a very nice house He works very hard. He has amazing clients, and he's always saved the day for us. So we are super thankful for him. But this, again, this mentality of these hyper-specific jobs, these CTE jobs, or these trades as not being a good option for anybody. College is the only way. That was the mentality when I was a high schooler in high school. Anyone else have a very similar vibe, or did you live in the world where CTE was highly sought after? And yeah, you can just think about that. You don't have to answer it, but and again, Sarah has kind of even told us anecdotally that her daughter is going through this mind shift of college is the only way again. Well, I can tell you that when I went to MSU in 2008, 2009, I had many friends that changed their majors three, four, five times, and those gen eds that have to are tied to those majors cost a lot of money, and to change and take those classes to drop them, that's some money you'll never get back. And I know that halfway through my freshman year, half of our hall was already gone because they had dropped out. So um, in that sense, college definitely wasn't worth it for them, and they might have been served a little bit better if they knew a little bit more about themselves. Uh, but yeah, and I think that is where this comes in. Has anyone ever seen this before? Okay, so this is the Michigan Career Development Model, and I'll tell you a little more about it later, but this is the newest iteration of that. And it is actually by law that K to 12, they are supposed to have experiences that are tied to these six career zones that you see on the left and expanded to these 17 career clusters. These are the major clusters in Michigan for careers. So by law, K to 12 in this day and age, in this iteration of what K-12 education is, there has to be exposure and experiences with that live within this type of career cluster and offerings, right? So this is something that was redone in December 2024, and this there was another iteration of this that was created in 2018, 2019. So there's been a conservative effort to really push career development in every single age band. There's a link here at the bottom to the reference guide if you get the slide deck. It is a big guide that is 30 something pages long, but we'll try to distill it a little bit so you get the general idea of what MDE and the Michigan Career Development Model really want. And for me as a STEM or STEAM consultant, I'm really excited about this because 9 out of the 17 clusters are STEM or STEAM related. You can kind of see them unpacked right there. And you see that I don't think it's perfect or anything like that. It's amazing that in the sense that it's much improved from what it was. But this whole band at the bottom here, there's one section for science, technology, engineering, mathematics. But you can go ahead and argue that everything in that bottom row is STEM. Healthcare, obviously, information technology, arts, technology, communications for STEAM, and then our good old ag science, food science, and natural resources. So many of these are prominent industries in Michigan and available jobs for those students. I think if they knew about them, if the experiences were truly embedded in K to 12, you might get some different answers from what people want to be as their top five, right? And I think the STEM jobs are really great because again, they're the students' top five aspirations. Number one was a job they love. Number two was having friends, right? And number three was a great paying job. And we know STEM and STEAM jobs pay a lot of money. You can see from all these stats that there are going to be a lot of STEM and STEAM jobs. They're going to pay more than double of non-STEM jobs. There is a lack of representation in these specific fields. Black workers, Hispanic workers, and especially people who are women. There are a lot of opportunities for these jobs to be taken by many different looking people, which is amazing because and again, I didn't see very many STEM options in those really highly sought after jobs for students, but there is huge opportunity for them to for that to change through the Michigan Career Development Model and through educators more specifically having some career exposure, right? And again, just to remind you, this is by law that there has to be some sort of career development model and these specifically these career cluster exposures. And we'll kind of break down how you can do that very easily and how it's not as tough as you might think it would be. And the model expands itself to this framework. And you can kind of see here it's into four different sections. Students K to 12, should they have the opportunity to know themselves a little bit more, explore options, make choices, and then start to take actions. What that really looks like, you can kind of see expanded in the bullet points to the left. And I'm going to expand on them a little bit more so that you get a little more description. But in that getting to know yourself option, if you're a K to 5 teacher, you get to live in the world of know yourself and explore options. So you're starting to introduce students to careers and the world of work and what that actually really means, right? And if I'm thinking of, myself as a younger kid, I knew my parents were working. I didn't always know why they were working or what they did. And now shift forward many years later, there's a conservative effort to make them know more specifically about careers and why the world of work is happening. And a lot of the times getting to know themselves and their particular likes, design challenges really helps. And these are design challenges or experiences that almost let them role play and try out these careers. So say you're doing a project-based learning experience where they have to solve the problem as an engineer. They have to maybe go through the engineering design process. They have to get to know the problem. They have to start working in teams to maybe talk about a solution. Then they start designing that solution, and then they start prototyping, and they're getting feedback on that solution. That's something that looks very different from K to 5, but can be done in K through 5 as a way to let them try out what it's like to be an engineer. And I don't know specifically if I ever had an experience where I had the opportunity to try on the hat of an engineer or a computer scientist or even someone in agriculture or food science in my K to 12 career. Who knows? I might have really liked becoming someone who worked for Meyer and coming up with these recipes and making this version of this food healthier. I might have really enjoyed that, but I didn't really get the chance to get my feet wet and try it at all. Has anyone can you think back of your, K-5 education and think of some big projects that really uplifted any careers? And K5 was a long time ago, so I'm sure something probably happened. You might have had people come in to talk about their jobs on career day or career fairs, and that's your career exposure too. And then there's a reason you don't remember those broad career exposure days. It's because it's a very small dip in the bucket. It's something that helps meet the requirements of the Michigan Career Development Model, but projects that students remember are engaging because they are really meaningful and steeped in sometimes these careers. I have students who, I was doing career cluster work and career readiness, even though I didn't know it. I have some students who come back to me and say, "Oh, remember that project in sixth grade when we like designed and this is an amazing project-based learning experience, but we designed a space station and we had to think through if environmental science and what really needed to happen to terraform Mars or something like that, right? They come to me and say, well, we got to try out a little bit of that environmental science through thinking through what the environment and how it was actually created to make this work on another planet. So they come back to me and they tell me about that. And there's some career exposure in there and those design challenges. But as they move forward, in 6 to 8, they should start to be making choices. Like there should be some electives that align to maybe some more of their interests. And a lot of times our K to 5 STEM or STEAM electives mirror what our specials were in K to 5 because many of our strongest STEM programming in Kent County have clusters featured every couple of weeks or every month so that students kind of get their feet wet and try it out, role play a little bit to see if they like the vibe of that cluster. If you saw earlier in those clusters, not everything was hyper specific. This is energy, right? This is manufacturing. It's all kind of the vibe of the cluster. or you can view it as that. Because, like someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Bridget, there's some jobs that don't yet exist, and these jobs will look different with things like AI as a factor and just advancing technology. So it's just the vibe of the job in that role play, in that kind of experience. So as they move from their K to 5 STEM or STEAM special, and a lot of times content area classes, grade level classes will have projects that have a cluster slap on it as the theme, as the vibe. And then the 6 to 8, they start making their choices a little bit more with career options. Sometimes that is open-ended project-based learning or very specific electives. Like we have advanced manufacturing electives in some of our districts that really go into what it is to have a career in manufacturing, some of the tools that you use, all the different types of math and science that are involved in manufacturing, the different opportunities. And then in 9 to 12, they should start to take action. And to me, this is where, if this is implemented well, that number of students that don't feel prepared, that 51% of students who say they don't feel prepared, that number goes down. And if they know for sure that engineering isn't for them, they're not going to waste that on an engineering college or a major that's engineering. They might try something else in computer science or look at different pathways that get them started in computer science that are a little bit more cost effective. That take action spot is exactly what the bullet point of agency is in the student-centered learning. And through K to 12, really we want students to have a lot of agency and to feel a lot more prepared. And that's the goal of the Michigan Career Development Model as an implementation guide. Now, this is all 30 pages kind of summarized in at these few bullet points. So you're going to have questions. It's going to be a lot. But if you do have any questions right now about this specific image or what I've been talking about, let me know right now. We have a time at the end, but I would love to answer some questions that in the moment as well.
I'm curious, as I look across these three pieces, these three strata, if you're thinking about younger students really just starting to be exposed to possibilities and thinking about themselves and what they like and what strengths that they would like to build on. And then when you get to that center, the making choices, I'm reading that as they're making choices about what to explore, not necessarily about making choices about what they're going to be someday. Is that a
Yes,
fair way to say
yes.
that?
That's a fair way to say it. They're making choices about what to explore. And this is where they start to get a little more agency in 6 to 8, where they can choose some electives. They have some agency and choice there, where are the electives in middle school super varied? I hope we're getting there where they feel like they have a lot of agency to go into more of that computer science experience that they had in fourth or fifth grade and they really like. They want to expand upon that or that maybe agriculture experience that they enjoyed in fourth grade and they think that's where they really lean toward. So that's what I mean when students make choice a little bit more. So they're starting to make choices to affirm or confirm that they don't like or enjoy something. And does that answer your question, Bridget?
Yeah, it does. I'm connecting that with I'm curious if like what sort of communication or learning might it be helpful for the adults to learn and to know about so that they are not envisioning this as, oh, you're asking my child to choose in seventh grade what they're going to be for the rest of their life. Because that's not what I'm hearing. I just wonder if there's any
Yeah,
need for we need to make sure that all the adults in the child's world are understanding that these are opportunities for them to explore and what the benefits are of that.
Yeah, and I think if you break it down, again, there's like 30 some odd pages or more. And that could look like a progression from 6 to 8, where, okay, I've got my sixth grade electives. I have my opportunity to even assess my experiences in sixth and seventh, and maybe start thinking about in that eighth that, oh, I really want to go down this path. I know my high school has this co-op or this further elective that might lead to AP credits. That just gives them further agency in a more detailed grade by grade progression.
I did have a question as you're thinking about this, for like these different grade bands, but just based on what he shared this evening, like thinking of the students that Austin works with, How would you see this working not just for different grade levels, but for different abilities? And I haven't personally scanned through the 30-page document yet, but just like I'm curious because I know there are a lot of those work-based programs that get students with different abilities into jobs and things like that. But what other supports are there?
Yeah, for students who have a variety of different needs, it's, we've had the fortunate opportunity to have many different people attend our professional learnings and to engage with them in this area. And a lot of times that's leaning more into the role play and allowing them expansive time to get them to know themselves through some of the work related skills. It might not be in these specific clusters and it might look entirely different than what someone else is going to have opportunity wise, but the getting to know yourself and exploring your options part are I think in a way very vague in the sense that everyone can always get to know themselves better and they can eliminate options, whether it be few or many, to see like what they really like. And again, K to 5, and they're really leaning into getting to know yourself as far as these experiences. T if the self-assessment looks entirely different from K to 5, but it's something that knowing your students and seeing what that self-assessment looks like so they can, with their open-ended projects that you have where they turn in like a lot of different iterations of the final project, they know what they prefer to when they turn in something. I don't know if that really answers your question or not, but it's really helping them to get to know themselves.
Yeah, and I think you framing that way is useful. And as you were talking, and I went back over to the slide that you have with the 17 career clusters on there, and I think like my mind went back to when I was in a local district. The special ed class would once a month do some sort of cooking something to give an opportunity to like I loved when they did pancake day and they would dress all up and like they'd have their gloves and all like food safety stuff. So like there was so much that went into it beyond just like the pancakes, but they loved it when people came in because it was also a communication exercise for them too. And they had to serve and they had to look people in the eye. So it just you talking about the know yourself and explore options, that's exactly where my mind went to, where it doesn't necessarily have to be a career, but it can begin with an experience, even.
Yes, the experience, the role play, it just helps every kid, I think, again, try that experience, get to know if they like that vibe of that type of career. And and you're talking about skills that are really beyond the technical things in STEAM or STEM. It's really all the other aspects of working as well, right? You talked about just the communication that they had to go through, it's just probably some of the problem solving when things didn't go correctly, when they're putting that chef or that kitchen staff hat on. Definitely, just those type of experiences to get to know, like, oh yeah, I definitely cannot work in a job like a kitchen job with this type of team. I need something that's maybe more of on my own, is also really valuable.
And no need to cry over burnt pancakes. Not worth it.
No, someone will eat it, or and if not, you can just throw it away, right? So,
And
um,
any animal I'm sure would eat it.
absolutely. Yeah, we know a lot of those animals, being in a lot of urban, mid-urban areas in the country. A lot of those animals eat anything. And I think the fortunate thing, and I don't know where everyone's at who attends these professional learnings, but at least in West Michigan, we have amazing industry partners that want to partner and make those career clusters more meaningful and come alive. And a lot of times, educators just have to reach out um, to these companies, and at the very least, they'll send someone to come and talk about like all of the careers and what it's like to work in food science at Gordon Food or Meyer, or what is it like to be an engineer at Steelcase or Amway? What does it mean to work on robotics and to program a robotics at Amway or Gentex? What does it mean to work at data science in Gordon Food and Corewell Health? And all these companies have very many different STEM and STEAM options within them. And if you're not from the Kent County area, there's always local partners and in a cluster that I think would be willing to help make the experience a little more immersive and a little more engaging for students. And that's why I think the clusters are very wide, and the vibe of a lot of these companies match many of these different clusters, and they can be used especially to make things a little more real. All right. So, yeah, where's everyone from? Do you have these local industries in your Remsey region? Sorry, that should be just in your region. I was thinking of Remsey for whatever reason. Um, for another project. If you know what Remsey is, talk to Sarah later or talk to me later. It's great. It's amazing. But just forget that and just talk about your local region here. Is everyone from Grand Rapids who's in the chat right now?
I'm originally from Lansing, Michigan. I
Okay.
moved over here for better opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities here. Yeah.
I'm from Muskegon.
Okay. Yeah. What are some of your local industry partners out there that might partner with you on a cluster project?
Um, and I'm retired right now, so I'm not in the community,
Mhm.
but just being other places, we see a lot with How Met
Okay.
Industries, and I'm trying to, there's another one, but I also have gotten a chance to tour our Muskegon um, Center for what do they call it? Uh,
Career Tech Ed Center?
Career Tech. It's wonderful. My goodness, yeah. My husband's in Rotary Club, and they invited us over one night, and we
Mhm.
got to go on a tour. It was pretty amazing. So,
Yeah, these career tech centers, I think at most ISDs I go to have amazing options in almost every one of these career clusters. And
yeah.
it's just great to see. Sally, don't tell me you're someplace much warmer than we are right now.
Warmer. No, no, no. I'm here in
Okay.
Muskegon.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
here.
I was going to say you're, you
I
said
leave in
you're,
2 weeks, though, for Florida.
oh, okay. There you go. I thought you were in Florida
But
or something, but yeah.
He's
yeah,
not that
the
kind
other,
of retired, too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
not
That's
yet.
fair. That's fair.
But
Yeah.
the other thing we have is we have the Culinary Institute through Baker
Mhm.
College, and I live downtown Muskegon, and they do a fabulous job. And every year the kids are hosting a Rotary Club event, and they're serving the food and making the food, and you get to go and see how they prepare it. It's actually really, really wonderful. And they have a restaurant too. So if you ever come to Muskegon, you should check it out.
Yeah. And I
It's
love
pretty,
that. I love that model of
yeah.
like seeing whatever you're working on in school become
Mhm.
real and have a chance to really mimic what it would be like in real life. That meaningful role play
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah. It's really good. Fabulous.
Yeah, and
Yeah. It looks like McKenna's in our Grand Rapids area, too.
yes, okay, because in our Grand Rapids area, she gave a little more context from where she's from, and it seemed like you're from a small town, right, McKenna, where there's like really only a couple different options, and um, I think that's interesting too because if there's only a couple different options, is your plate a little more, do you have a little more choice there in the sense that, well, there's only a couple options where I live. Do I need to seek it somewhere else? Is that something that was pushed where you're from?
She did comment in the chat that she's 30 minutes north of Grand Rapids and they have a lot of agricultural opportunities as well as Kent Power.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and do a lot of people stay in the community and take advantage of those agricultural opportunities?
While McKenna's possibly answering, McKenna, I'm from a very similar background. I'm from a very rural town in northern Michigan, and it was very agricultural. The agricultural career opportunities were very large in our high
Hmm.
school, but not a lot of others, a few others. And so you definitely saw a lot of kids, many following within family, generational
Hmm.
farming and agricultural roles, and then if you didn't fit into some of the careers were just there in the small town, you were going to have to leave at least for a while.
Okay. Yes, may stay, but it seems that if you want to go to big companies, you need to relocate to get a bigger company or business. Yeah, and I think in a way, those schools having career connected learning and featuring all the clusters is really important, right? Because if you know you're not going to stay there for agriculture, then you're more well informed to where you could go, right? to seek some of those opportunities in bigger places. You know that Midland has opportunities with Chemical, right? If you really want to lean into that side of science, and you know that Grand Rapids is huge for manufacturing. If you want to be an engineer and manufacture a specific item that you're really passionate about, and we know the auto industry as well on the east side. And again, I think in every single area, whether small, urban, mid-urban, rural, suburb, it's so important for kids to try on that chef's hat or try on that engineering toolkit so they know that they like the vibe of that career or not. And I think, I think something that I never got was food science and agriculture. So a lot of times when I hear that these communities have these opportunities, I'm like, oh man, I wonder what it would have been like if, I tried some more of that cluster when I was younger. I might be, who knows, I might be someone who is really big into agriculture. But yeah,
I'm
some,
sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt one thing, going back to kind of what you were saying. You were talking a lot about the role playing, and I don't want to go too far off. But as you're talking about that, my mind started to go to like, how do we do that role playing? What does it look like, kind of thing? And I was wondering if you could do like a 30 to 60-second napkin pitch on the work that you've been doing around a more immersive storytelling and how that might fit into this.
Yeah, yeah. Role playing is really big for me just because of all the games I played and when I was younger, and I learned to read while playing some of these role playing games. And I'm not a traditionally big lover of books, not until later in life. But these games, these text-heavy games where you had to read and you had agency, you made choices that affect the ending. That was my jam. And some of the work I've done with social coaching for Oakland University Center for Autism, we've had the opportunity to coach adults and kids with autism in many of these social situations where you are role playing, meeting someone, interviewing, saying no to people who ask you something on the street. We go through all these situations. I had one specific participant say I'd be a good dungeon master. I'm like, what are you talking about, Dungeon Master? He's like, and they're like, this is exactly what we do in our D&D campaign. We've done this for the last 5 years. My Dungeon Master puts all our tough social situations into this safe, fantastical world. I'm like, that sounds awesome. So deep dive into that. So many social emotional benefits. Specifically, I saw all the work-related skills that you could work on in these role play situations. I'm like, why don't we slap a career cluster or something on top of it so that you can work and develop these skills in context. So we did some work with bringing in a professor who was a teacher who runs a lot of D&D and putting our participants through just being comfortable with role playing and being comfortable with something new and making decisions and having agency in all these fantastical situations, but also encouraging them to see the blend into project-based learning and design thinking, which we'll talk about a little later. And some of these skills that I talk about, industry will also echo that. Like we know Gen Z is going to make up a lot of the workforce in 25. We want them to have jobs and to get paid because we know they themselves want good jobs and want to get paid. So the hiring managers don't think they're really ready to work and they don't think they have good interpersonal skills. I don't know if that surprised anyone, but that's what this Forbes poll has given us. And one of our industry partners, Thomas Cook, has also said that project-based learning is awesome when grounded in design thinking and is one of the most effective pedagogies to prepare people for work, right? It's all tying together here, right? We know that students are going to be engaged. They have agency. They are going to drive their own learning because they want a good job. They want to get paid. And they, we now know that our industry is saying that they need more of this design thinking, project-based learning, but in a way where these skills are developed. These are durable skills from this company called Pathsmith. And what they've done is they've taken, and you probably can't see it all that well because it's a big wheel with small words and lots of words, but they've taken millions of job postings on Indeed, on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and they get out all the key words in these career cluster or not career clusters, in the skill clusters. These are the most sought after type of skills that employers want. They want skills in mindfulness, metacognition, leadership, growth mindset, fortitude, critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, and character. And then more specifically are expanded. These are the most highly searched for, highly included words in those job sites. So we know these are important. We also know now that industry doesn't think our students are very good with this. And to tie it all in together, to have an experience where they have the chance to drive their own learning, make decisions, they have a choice about what they want to do, and they feel motivated because it's building towards something relevant, like a career path that they might enjoy, or knowing the fact that they have these opportunities and what they're working towards is getting them closer to that opportunity, I think is really going to up the game in the student-centered learning category uh, for the engagement sector. And again, that's starting with having them know their careers and what they like, what they don't like. But also using frameworks that is really friendly to slapping the situation on, so we get that nice role play, right, Sarah? And this is a framework I think that helps you do this really well. We heard from industry that this is a framework that really works and that they use. You saw that from Thomas Cook, who works at Steelcase. And this is a nice, I think, project-based learning framework called design thinking, where students have to go through these steps that really encourage a lot of um, these durable skills to live in. But we're going to modify it a little bit and just talk about how you could use this to help you create a project with a career cluster in mind. How are we doing on time?
We have 3 minutes left. So
Perfect. So
I,
I'm going to leave
I
you
know.
with this.
You go.
Explore design thinking because the steps are there for you to fill in the blank. During empathy, during define, during ideate, prototype, test, and reflect, you can modify each one to turn it into a role-playing design challenge experience that is very career connected, right? How do we do that? Let's have Chat GPT or Gemini help us. So here's a little kind of guide for you to type into either one of these and use that kind of to help you explore what I'm talking about when I talk about a role player experience or a project-based learning that features a career cluster that helps them try out something. Use this right here, right? I start by asking either Chat or Google Gemini to design a 60-minute design challenge. And a lot of the times it's 60 minutes because our K to 5 STEM special is really short, right? Or our electives in middle and high school are finite in time. And I give that grade. I'm a fourth grade STEAM teacher, right? I want to engage in a 60-minute design thinking challenge. I want design thinking experience to be focused on the food industry in Grand Rapids in Michigan, right? Let's put a little more context in there. And I really want to use a book to help me teach this design thinking to provide more background knowledge. I like this book called Chef Roy Choi and the Street Food Remix. So use that as an inspirational resource. Including interviews I might need for the empathy stage and talk about the problem, include citations and sources that I drew upon. I also talk about the durable skills I want to include. And then, if we would have had time, I would have liked to see what you entered into ChatGPT and Google Gemini to compare some of the projects that you could come up with. Um, and we don't have the time, so do it and then email me to see how different your responses are, because I would love to hear about them. And again, some of the research just shows us that it's highly increased engagement and achievement when you do things like this. The durable skills development is there. The expanded career awareness is there when you do a project like this. And again, opportunities to involve these higher education partners or these career industry cluster partners is very synergistic, and the opportunities are there and make sense, right? Um, I any questions? I know we wasted all the time, but here we are without any time.
No, we 100% didn't waste it. Those were some really great conversations, and I appreciate each of you participating in that and giving us some context. Yeah, exactly. I agree, McKenna. So,
Yeah.
where can we find you? What are you doing? Where are you sending people off to
Y-
explore this?
You can find me at dubois@kenic.org. And if you have any questions, email me there. But some of the big opportunities that we have coming up are the Amazing Shake and Lasting Student Success. That's a partnership with Granville Public Schools, where we talk through what it's like to run role play, but in the sense that you're developing durable skills. Like, how do we give students that opportunity to practice and learn about what is it like to critically think, or what is it like to collaborate? We also often say as educators, I think, like, oh yeah, in our project-based learning, you're just collaborating, but you don't give them that sense of what that actually looked like and specifically intentionally trying it. So that's a little bit about that. And it's a very Ron Clark experience for that professional learning. Another one is STEAM Network Connected Amway. We're going to look at Amway's manufacturing resources and how teachers K to 12 STEAM can include some of those materials. If you know any art teachers, we are at the awesome Muskegon Art Museum on May the 4th, Star Wars, and there's a big art of comic book exhibit, and we're talking through art ed and how to be more career connected in that world. We're gonna have some artists from Pixar, from Marvel, talk to some of our art educators and what it's like to live in Grand Rapids or live remotely and work for some of those big companies. Those are some of the things we're doing right now. And yeah, moving forward, there it is. I already skipped to what you need to talk about. Sorry, I'm
You're
over time.
amazing. Dude, there's such really fun and amazing stuff coming up with multiple different directions to explore STEAM. I hope people will take a look at that and recommend it to people that you know that might be interested as well. Don't forget to fill out an exit ticket, whether you are here with us live or if you're viewing recorded, so that we can get the sketch for you. And we're very excited that we are starting to see. Oh, I think, you are sharing. You want to go ahead and go forward for us?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. You're still in the driver's seat. Don't forget that you can apply some of this information. Maybe you start with taking Du's prompt, putting it in, see what you come up with, and doing a little reflecting on what that might look like in your context. Throw that into a double down application, and you automatically have another sketch. And we do have some coming in already. So we just want to give a shout out to people who are doing that. Maximizing. Yeah, Sally, I know it sounds really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be one of our most fun events we've ever done. So I'm pretty excited about the art event. I'll see you there, Sally. And the registration will be up. I'll send it to you. I'll make a note to send it to you. But we're working through details with the museum right now.
All right. Last slide, Do. Second to last slide. I was kidding. Next month we have, go ahead and go back. Next month, our theme is wellness with Chelsea Kittredge Farrell. She'll be talking about wellness educators, wellness teachers, or excuse me, wellness students. What sorts of things do we need to be thinking about at this very critical juncture on that really critical topic? So please reach out to any of us at any point that we can help you out. And now we can go to that last slide. Thank you. Don't hesitate. We are here for you, and in any way that we can serve, I will be posting the links that were on Du's slides on our guide. And of course, you always have access to the full slide deck. Thank you for being here.